Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Hello everybody and welcome to AOC Gaming's League of Champions powered by VRRC. We are live across multiple platforms including YouTube and Facebook. We're also cross-posting to an awful lot of Facebook groups, so wherever you're watching this from, thank you very much for tuning in and I hope you enjoyed the evening's action we got ahead of you. My name's Jack Oliphant and I'm joined in the commentary box by Dave Marshall, and the races you're tuning in for this evening is of course the finale for the Ginetta Super Cup here at Portimao. A fantastic circuit from a driver's perspective, and hopefully it'll give us some great racing. It is the finale for the Ginetta Super Cup, which marks the quarter stage for the overall League of Champions, isn't it, Dave? And you can see there that we've got the touring cars next.
Yeah, we have indeed. You know, touring cars next, then GT4 Sprint, and then Mini JCW to finish off League of Champions. It's gone. First championship for me has gone so fast here. It only seems like we've only just started, Jack.
It does indeed, yeah. I mean, it's been a fantastic couple of rounds. It's a short series, isn't it? But it adds to an overall spectacle, which is fantastic to see. Misano, Mugello, Imola, and of course Portimao that we're at the moment. We are, of course, taking a week break, but then it is going straight into the Touring Cars series, which will basically follow the same sort of format. 2 races, 2 20-minute races with a reverse grid, top 10 for the second race. And there you go, on your screen right now, the calendar. Donington, I think that says Magione, Imola and Red Bull Ring. Am I saying that right, Dave?
Yeah, I would have said so. You know, It's not one of the more well-known tracks, but it's incredibly technical, really good track, and looking forward to seeing what a front-wheel drive does around there. But regarding the prizes are exactly the same for each individual championship in the League of Champions. So first place prize is our SR5 chassis, second place is SR3 chassis, and third place is our new GTF1 seats as well. And as you see, Jack, you can get it in your favourite colour there in pink if you really want. And then the remaining prizes are all to do with our memberships for sign up for championships and other benefits. So really, prizes to be won all across the board, but also if you don't win a prize in those championships alone, then there's also a prize pool draw for a set of brand new OBP hydraulic pedals as well, which I was just using at the weekend at Supercar Fest in Rich's sim truck, and I can tell you now, for a set of pedals, Jack, they are up there with the best of the best.
I'm quite jealous that you got to use them, and it is worth reminding everyone as well that the prizes that you saw, the sim rigs and the seat and everything, it's basically, you can win that for the Ginetta Super Cup, you can win that for the touring car, you can win that for the GT4, and you can win that for the Mini JCW as well. It's not just the overall prize pool, it's for each individual series, and of which there is 4 for the League of Champions. You can win those prizes, which is absolutely fantastic. And not only that, Dave, but you can also win prizes even if you're not on the podium, can't you? Because, of course, there's the driver of the day to always have a think about. Now, last time out, that was Max Edmunson who won that for a fantastically consistent and high performance that's put him right into contention for that third place in the championship. We'll go through that in a couple of minutes. But you can see there, kindly provided by PowerMax, a full valeting kit. I think it's worth over £25-30. I think it's near £50 actually. It's a fantastic donation from them for each driver of each and every week as well. So across the 2 races tonight, we'll be picking another driver who's really caught the eye, really stands out, and also you guys are going to help with that as well. So if you're in the chat and somebody's caught your eye, or you're supporting a driver or anything like that, make sure you type it in the chat so me and Dave can have a chat about it through the race, and we can announce it just before the second race finishes, and we can get them into an interview as well. So you guys, your view counts in terms of this. Help me and Dave out, basically. But I think what we're going to do, Dave, now is actually let you virtually take us through a lap of Portimao.
Yeah, we'll go and jump on board and see how we get through the track. So across the line here at Portimao, down to the most difficult first corner I've ever driven. Really steep and banked and very blind. No real reference point of when either to hit the brakes. Down towards turn 3, it's a really tricky right-hander where drive out of it is crucial, seeing as how it's a really steep uphill corner. You don't want to run it too wide there, otherwise it'll close off the left-hander. Just here the diff there, just struggling to sort of contain itself there, trying to spin up the inside wheel. Down towards turn 5, an incredibly cambered hairpin here, down to second gear, trying to get the front end to rotate, yet again maximising the traction out of the corner there. Round this left-hander into turn 7, where you want to almost make it as wide as possible so you can tuck it back in for turn 8. You can see the A pillar of the car there getting right in the way of where I need to be trying to turn in. Up and over the crest, down towards turn 9. Brilliant corner, long sweeping corner, but want to hang it left up towards turns 10 and 11. Another one of them where you want to make this into almost one corner, you see. Third gear, down the hill, down to turn 12. Quite reminiscent actually of turn 9. Sort of one of them long uphill left-handers. I always think of that when I get to it. Turn 13, another hairpin, and then good traction out of there towards turn 14. So you know you're nearly home now. You just need to focus on getting the best exit you can out of here, because from now all the way to the finish you don't lift off. Down towards the long turn 15. This is going to be a key for the race, where if a person manages to get tucked in behind you on the way out of that corner, it's going to be a perfect run down this long straight here to have a perfect opportunity to overtake in turn 1. And that is your lap of the last round here at Portimao.
Hopefully hopefully everybody enjoyed our flying lap provided by Dave Marshall. Hell of a lap that you did there, Dave, to be fair. And it looks like a tricky circuit, especially you were talking through a little pointers or two, weren't you? But we'll go on to that when we go into qualifying, because of course we want to have a look at the Imola round 3. So this is the last round results. You can see that Jordan Brennan came out on top. He was first place, and they actually had quite a fantastic drive in the second race. Just could never really make anything stick. Maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later. Ryan Elliot in second place and Max Edmunson in third. And that did become quite a big thing with the championship as well. So we'll go on to the championship after pointing out that obviously that Power Max bucket and that driver valeting kit basically is £40 worth of kit right there. And Dave, again, you were telling me that it's a fantastic bit of kit. So looking forward to giving that away to someone else this evening. But at the championship standings, Ryan Elliot with 92 points, Jack McIntyre with 87 points, 5 points between them. Ironically, that was the same amount, that was the same difference that they went into Imola with. So they actually scored very similar amount of points and came out pretty much at exactly the same place. Ryan Elliot with 30 kilograms, Jack McIntyre with 24. The ballast is there, but that is going to change, and we'll explain that in a couple of minutes. Max Edmunson currently sits in third place, 80 points, a full 7 points behind Jack McIntyre. And from the timings that we've been having a look at, and from what we've been chatting about, Dave, it looks like maybe first and second will probably stay the same names. It just depends on the order. And then third all the way down to seventh. So Max Edmunson, Robbie Stapleford, Callum Newsham, Maxi Roerig, and Jordan Brennan. That's sort of up for grabs, isn't it?
Yeah, so as you say, we were talking that, first and second, that's a 7-point gap from Max Edmunds to Jack McIntyre. I'm not saying it's done and dusted, it can definitely all change yet, but that's quite a big gap to try and close. Only 5 points though to Ryan Elliot between Jack and Ryan. But third to seventh for me is where things can really change. Jordan is looking very quick here in early practice. Max Edmunson maybe not so, and then you've got Maxi and Robbie Stapleford who, they're lapping quick, but Jordan is the real standout, so we might actually see quite a big change between third and seventh place. So looking forward to really seeing what happens there in the race.
Yeah, exactly. And if we just keep the championship standings on the screen for a minute or two more, just to point out that last time out we had a couple of drivers drop the amount of ballast using the VRRC point system that you can get if you access the VRRC membership package and everything like that. Well, Ryan Elliot has used those points to activate a perk which basically allows him to take 50% off of his ballast for this round only. He's going to try and really secure this first place and win that Simrig 5. Also, Robbie, I think it was Jordan Brennan. No, it wasn't. It was Robbie Stapleford took 50% off as well. So he's gone from 14 kilograms down to 7. Ryan Elliott's gone from 30 to 15. And Jack McIntyre has taken 25% of the ballast out of his car as well. So that drops him down to 18 kilograms, which was some very similar weight to Ryan Elliott and Max Edmunson, which means the top three are going to be very, very close on weight. And that will prove to be the same in the timing, I'm entirely sure. So we can now take you to qualifying and we can have a look at how exactly everyone is getting on and how those ballasts is really shaking things up. Dave, you've driven the track quite a lot, obviously, because you drove the hot lap and everything like that. You're our driver coach. How important is qualifying? Because in Imola, you can slipstream, you can get past people quite easily. But with Portimao, it looks a different beast.
Yeah, I'm just actually I'll come to that point after Jordan's finished this lap, because Jordan is currently setting the timing sheets absolutely light with double purple sectors. So let's see what he can do in sector 3, and this could be a potential pole that he's about to take. We're going to cross the line just as we cross about now. Will it be enough for pole lap? It is indeed. So actually, Jordan Brennan straight away with a 50.2, which, looking at the pre-practice times there, Jack, that's a very, very competitive time. So Jordan Brennan, as I said before, is looking quick, and we might see if you can have a good round and 2 good races here, it might be enough to see him finish on the podium at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Remember, what we're going to do, how we're going to basically play this format, is we're going to commentate and shout about race 1, as we usually do, the first 20-minute race, and then our sheets will automatically update with how the points will stand going into the final race, the reverse grid, top 10 reverse grid 20-minute race that we have for you in about half an hour's time. So we'll then sort of keep up to date with all the championship standings, and we'll see how everybody gets on in the second race of the evening. And Dave, I'm going to give you the responsibility of trying to figure it out whilst everyone is driving around to the second race. trying to decide where everybody's going to fall in the championship to see who is winning those sim rigs, who's winning the driver of the day, and all that sort of thing as well. It's quite a responsibility you got on your hands there, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, it's my pleasure. We'll see whether the maths works out, and my apologies if it doesn't. But we'll see. I reckon we should be all right, chat. I reckon we'll be all right.
Yeah, well, the impressive thing about the system that VRRC have running here, though, as well, is basically as soon as the checkered flag drops and the results get processed, we get a instant update on the championship standings, don't we? So before the broadcast is dead tonight, even if our predictions are slightly wrong, we will know exactly who is the championship winner for the Ginetta Super Cup Series, and basically who's bagged an awful lot of points for the overall League of Champions as well, and a whole host of prizes. You're right, Jordan Brennan with a flying time at the moment. He's currently on pole position. Ryan Elliot, who's currently top of the championship, remember, he's in second place on the road in qualifying. Callum Newsham's found some real good pace. He's had good pace, to be honest, all series, hasn't he? He just hasn't had the luck or the racecraft necessarily. It's probably more luck because he is a good racer to go with it. So he currently sits down in 5th place.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether you can remember, Jack, but he had some awful luck where he's been winning races by, nearly 10 seconds, and then he gets a black screen and ends up in a gravel track. So he's definitely had a few tech issues that would have seen him a lot higher up in the championship had it been a different scenario. So I think it's fair to say that his championship position at the moment isn't showing his true representation of how fast of a driver he really is.
If you cast your mind back all the way back to the first race of the entire series, remember, he had a jump start as well, didn't he? He had to come for a drive-through penalty, and that scuppered his entire round. I think it was at Mazzano. I could be wrong. I always get Mazzano and Mugello mixed up, and it doesn't help that they were rounds 1 and 2 here. But I think it was Mazzano. But yeah, so that is very true. Callum Newsham, he's got a good pace. The fact that he is down in 5th place, he's only got 12 kilograms on board, so that plays into his advantage slightly as well, doesn't it? For a charge for that 3rd place overall position. What doesn't help for him necessarily, though, is the fact that Robbie Stapleford, currently 4th in the championship, has taken 7 kilos out of his car. So actually, he's got about half the weight of Robbie Stapleford, just over, of Callum Newsham, which means, that's going to be very tight indeed, which is why you can see that Stapleford is actually in 4th place on the road in qualifying at the moment as well. There's an awful lot to keep your eyes on, basically, for this entire evening's work. So that's why we're going to sort of keep it calm. We're going to treat race 1 like a normal race, and then we'll bring in the championship for race number 2, so we have a better idea of where everyone stands. Having said that, Dave, it'll probably all kick up, won't it? And it'll probably make it very much harder to predict who's going to be where.
Yeah, I mean, this for me is really a track that it's an extremely hard track to try and hot lap. You saw how big the A pillar was in a lot of the right-hand bends. So this is what Ryan going into turn 2 and 3 here, 3rd corner, sorry. This hairpin right up the hill. That A pillar is right where you need to be looking, and it's crucial that you hook up the exit to get this drive out the line. And it's one of them tracks where trying to put the hot lap together is maybe not as easy, but to race it is maybe a different ball game. It's got them stop-start places where that's really where overtakes can happen. So I'm expecting, Jack, tonight to see quite a lot of change for position with the amount of big harsh braking areas into hairpins and the likes of that. So I think it's going to be an interesting one to race, but qualifying is definitely going to be key, as it is with any track. If you can get an early advantage and out in front and drive away, it makes your job a heck of a lot easier than trying to battle your way through the pack.
Yeah, if anybody out there is wondering what on earth an A pillar is, it's basically the pillar that is between the windscreen and the car door window, essentially. That sort of strip of metal and sort of roll cage and everything like that. That's what we're talking about there, and that is basically right on your apex as well, on your sight line to the apex from where you sit in the car in these things. And not only that, I think everybody will know, basically, if you watch the F1, or even if you're just watching your screen right now, you can see there's an awful lot of undulations. There's a lot of it changing in sort of levels as you go down the hill, up the hill, through the corners and everything like that. And it's already a twitchy car at the rear end, isn't it, the Ginetta on Assetto Corsa, Dave? It's not made easier at this circuit.
No, definitely not. And, them gradients always play havoc, especially down in this turn 1. It doesn't do justice on the camera here how blind it is to try and find that initial braking point. So the fact these drivers are doing it this consistently and nailing turn 1 every time, fair play to them, because it is incredibly hard. Jordan Brennan, I've noticed, actually has set a faster sector 2 time. Will he go faster again? I don't believe he has actually. So he hasn't beat his time, but it shows Jordan is actually consistently very, very quick. And am I reading that right? Is that Ryan Elliot on exactly the same lap time?
I was going to read that out because on our timing towers, on our sort of browser screen over here, we can see there is a tenth of a difference, or just under a tenth of a difference. But on your screens to the left-hand side, it looks like they're dead level. So I can't really decide which one's which.
I think it's 0.099. It's just our graphic isn't quite reading them nines that well. So I believe he's a fraction under 0.01 of a second off Jordan Brennan's time. So very, very close between first and second place. And Jack McIntyre is starting to get into his stroll now. He was sitting just above the top 10 there at the start of qualifying, and he's starting to put the laps in now. So he's brought himself right up into contention, just ahead of Robbie Stapleford, his teammate. Which we were saying this before, to have a teammate just behind you just allows you to relax into the race a little bit more and know that you don't have to defend as hard going into bends, and he won't just lodge his nose straight up the inside.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about Robbie Stapleford actually, and that decision to take 50% of the weight out of his car a little bit later. Ryan Elliott's put a purple sector 2 in. But a driver before Ryan Elliot comes across, in fact, actually, we'll watch him come across the line. He goes very wide there. Now, they have been reminded of track limit here at Portimao. I'm not sure if that one's going to be allowed to stick or twist. But Ryan Elliot is not good enough to propel. In fact, I don't think it's even registered at the time, so I don't think Ryan Elliot was allowed to keep that lap anyway. But the checkered flag drops now. We'll just have a chat about Max Edmunson, Dave, because Max has... Basically, he didn't set a lap time, did he, in the previous sort of pre-practice stuff as we were waiting to go live. All of a sudden, he gets out there and he's against people who were putting in, 20, 25 laps, like Jordan Brennan saying. He's put himself in 6th position. A fairly decent going for someone who's literally just jumped out and qualified and thought, you know what, let's go for it. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, anything under sort of a 151 is an incredibly competitive time. So he's jumped out straight on track, and within 6 laps gone a 50.9. So he's definitely kept himself in contention there to really battle with Robbie, and Maxi Roerig is the other key. It's that whole 4th to 7th position, 3rd to 7th position that I was on about. It's crucial that he manages to keep himself in that window and really sort of nail the beginning of the race to see whether or not he can climb himself up into the bottom of that podium.
Roerig set a green sector 1, but it looks like he's coming in as well. And we were talking about, you mentioned it just then, about that 3rd to 7th, basically the protagonists of the series, that 1st to 7th in the championship, they're all in 1st to 7th in Portimao here in qualifying as well. You don't see any drivers dropping down the order outside the top 10 or anything like that. This is basically what's on your screen right now is what we tend to look at, our timing tower on our browsers quite often, and you can see it's such a narrow amount of margin between Jordan Brennan and Ryan Elliot. Then you got Callum Newsham as well in 3rd place, Jack McIntyre in 4th, Robbie Stapleford in 5th, Max Edmunson and Ryan Roerig are in 6th and 7th, and I believe, Dave, we got a pole sitter in to have a chat.
Yeah, we do indeed. So we'll go down to the interview room, and we should have Jordan Brennan sat there. Is your mic working and you're all live?
Yes.
We are indeed. I'm going to put the question out there. A bit of a surprise pole lap there, or did you start to feel the confidence there towards the end of practice and just managed to hook that lap up in qualifying as well?
In practice, I knew I could do this lap. It's just ridiculously hard to get a good lap in around this track. So I'm a bit shocked I got it, but I knew the pace.
Yeah. We were talking about that actually because we were saying about how blind a lot of the corners are with that big A-pillar right where you need to be looking. Is that what you find and makes the track that hard to be consistent, or is it more the undulation with how the diffs sort of opening and closing and the likes of that? What is it that's making the track quite inconsistent to try and lap on?
Yeah, for me it is just getting on the power out of corners. Because it's so difficult, this track. You just get on the power and it just lights the rears up instantly. It's not good.
So last question before I let you go and settle for race 1. I take it this is probably one of the tracks that has the most overtaking opportunities for any of the tracks we've been to. A lot of very slow hairpins. Is that sort of the worry that's sort of you're thinking going into the start of the race, or do you think if you can get a good enough start, you can pull away an early gap and let them sort of battle out behind you?
I'm hoping I can get a good start. I've just seen them on the outside, which is not good, but we'll see what happens. I think that hairpin might be a bit of an issue on lap 1, so we'll see what happens.
Well done for putting it on Paul Jordan. It's definitely looking good for the championship to try and crawl your way back up. And good luck going forward into race 1.
Cheers, thanks.
And that was our pole sitter, Jordan Brennan, talking to Dave Marshall. But before we go live to the race, Dave, we've got a couple of minutes. And I think it's about time we mentioned the VRRC Academy. Obviously, the League of Champions is what we're here to watch today. But if you don't think that you are a contender for the League of Champions just yet, but you still want to get involved in some sim racing, and maybe build yourself up to try and win some prizes that you're seeing won here tonight, well, the Academy, powered by VRRC, is a fantastic place to start. It's basically if you want to try and learn your craft through many different forms of racing in many different forms of cars, with professional driver coaching and a fully broadcasted season as well, then this is the place to go. You contact VRRC by their Facebook channels as well, and you'll be contacted by Rich about the information as well, added to the Discord and everything you want there. But you can see on your screen that the Formula 4, Audi TT Cup, Mazda MX-5 and the Caterham 420R are the cars to be used. And Dave, they're a fantastic mix of cars. They teach you an awful lot of different disciplines. Yeah,
massively. I mean, we actually spent quite a long time deciding what car we want to use. MX-5 is all about, doesn't really have much power, so it's about carrying momentum. The TT's got the push to pass, so that's all about strategy and deciding when to use it. I know it's a touring car, it's front wheel drive, but it's also got that strategy aspect which you get for endurance racing and LMP cars and things like that. The Caterham on the Formula 4, are relatively similar cars in the respect that the rear wheel drive, probably quite lively to drive, but obviously the Formula 4 is quite a lot snappier when it starts to go. But yeah, it's really just a series that, we were getting an increasing amount of people joining VRRC, just going, if I'm honest, I just don't feel I'm at the level that I can compete in League of Champions. I'm a newcomer to sim racing. I've either come from console and I've come to PC, or I'm completely new. And I'm just not quite ready for jumping in the deep end with drivers that's 4 or 5 seconds up the road. Is there a feeder series that you do for it? Well, here it is, Academy. It's there, designed. None of these drivers that are running at the front of League of Champions are allowed to enter these Academy races. So really a good opportunity to mix it at the front of the grid and really test your skill amongst the rest of the drivers.
Even if it's a case of not able to install the stuff on your computer because you don't know how AC works, well, VRRC are here to help you out with that. The first round of the championship and everything, so you have to sign up pretty quickly, although you can sign up for any of the rounds, is the 7th of June at Brands Hatch India as well. So basically this time next week, we will be, I think it's the Monday actually, the Brands Hatch first round. But we do have to go very quickly to the League of Champions for the matter in hand, because apparently they're lining up on the grid and there's only a minute to go for the first of 2 races to decide the Ginetta Super Cup Series champion. Remember, Ryan Elliot is on 2nd place. He's 1st in the championship. Jack McIntyre is currently 4th on the road, but he's 2nd in the championship. So there's your battle for 1st and 2nd, Ryan Elliot and Jack McIntyre. And then basically look out for anybody else in the top 7 for that race for 3rd place in the championship to win that bucket seat as well. I mean, they could all, to be fair, win the overall thing, but I think Ryan Elliot would have to have a bit of a mare. But as we round up to the 5 lights on your screen, the engine notes begin to rise, and we are away. And it's a good start by Jordan Brennan, to be fair. There's a good start nearly all the way down the field, apart from right at the back there, just outside the top 10 for one of the drivers. We will keep you pinned to the top 10 as well. Callum Newsom's going to have to go slightly defensive, but Jack McIntyre looks like he's got his nose up at the inside. Jordan Brennan, Ryan Elliot are as they are. Callum Newsom kept that 3rd position. Jack McIntyre is still looking at the inside, but he's actually defending now from Max Edmunson, I believe. And it's been a hell of a start in the background as well. A driver going sideways, looked like he got T-boned slightly. Cut away from that and back to the front. We see Jordan Brennan leading Ryan Elliot. There's a bit of a gap between himself, Callum Newsom. But look, Jack McIntyre going on the offensive, I believe, against Edmunson going offensive against McIntyre. Apologies there. Newsom runs wide. He's got a bit of a problem, I think. No, he gets the power down nice and clean. What a start here tonight, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, that was a very, very aggressive but great move by Max Edmunson. Up into the hairpin, it was exactly what I said at start of the race. This track with the big braking points really allows them aggressive drivers to use it. It's a bit more like your typical go-kart track, a lot of tight corners where you can get it up the inside, but as long as you get it stopped for the corner, it'll be job done, and that's exactly what we saw from Edmunson there early on against Jack McIntyre. Yet again, this is that whole championship battle that I was talking about is really going to be heating up here. Jordan Brennan, it's been a good start, but we can see he hasn't got the breakaway from Ryan Elliot that he maybe wanted to get. Actually, this is Jack McIntyre having a battle back at Max Edmunson. He managed to get round the outside, I believe, of the left-hand hairpin. Will Max Edmunson manage to tuck in here and get a bit of that slipstream down the start-finish line straight, and we might see him try and get an out-brake manoeuvre down the hill into the turn one, after the crest into turn one.
Yeah, we're starting to see little packs form already at the end of this first lap. Jordan Brennan and Ryan Elliot pulling away. And although Ryan Elliot will be hoping to win the overall race, he will be more... Oh, no, he's going up the inside potentially. It's Edmunson. No, he backs out of it, doesn't he? He doesn't want anything to do with that just yet. And I think he got a little bit of a tap up the backside by Stapleford as well, going towards the second apex. It's going to be a look at the inside. It's a huge look at the inside. It's a lunge, that's for sure. And I think he just about gets it gone. Sure, tell you what, Jack McIntyre, he did well not to come across him there, and it's still not finished either, because Edmunson is still the middle of this little sandwich that we've got going on, going down towards the left hand. Will Edmunson look out to the side? I'll tell you what, Stapleford fancies himself now, going into the hairpin. Oh, it's contact between Stapleford and Edmunson, and Stapleford's gone through.
Yeah, you know what, it was prime time there yet again. Edmunson looked like he was going to go left, but didn't fully commit. Robbie Stapleford already decided he was definitely going left, and it just ended up with a slight collision on that apex. But you know what? This has been great racing so far, but that's just allowed Jack McIntyre just to get that edge and pull away a little bit. You can see it's quite a nice big gap there to Callum Newshin now as well. But Ryan Elliott's not really making any headway towards Jordan Brennan. But in saying that, let's face it, Jack, Ryan Elliott doesn't need to take the risk in order to sort of make sure he wins this. He's got enough of a gap there. Brennan's back in 7th place in the championship. Ryan will be quite happy to sit here and go, well, my championship rival Jack Mac is back in 4th place. I'm happy where I am.
Well, that was the point I was going to make before they started trying to lunge up each other inside for half a lap. You're right, Elliot doesn't need to really push the boat out too much. He'd rather obviously be Jordan Brennan, because that would put another person and another load of points between himself and Jack McIntyre. Realistically, he is still outscoring his championship opponent, and I think we're about to see take number 3 or 4 of this is Max Edmunson looking at the inside. Is he going to go for the move this time? No, Stapleford goes defensive early, trying to show him out towards the outside, maybe something that McIntyre didn't do before, but he runs really wide, Stapleford, and I think he's going to be a sitting duck going towards the right-hander now. As we cut away, there's a lot of opportunity to carry momentum because you're on the inside for the left-hander, and that's exactly what Stapleford does. Wide goes Jack McIntyre ahead of them, but that doesn't really matter because the more that these two fight, the further ahead McIntyre is going to go, and then he's obviously got a bit of a gap to Newsham as well. Here goes Edmunson around the outside. Didn't get his nose ahead. That's why the timing tower was switched round. But a huge slide coming out of the hairpin there. I think Stapleford just about had to come off the throttle. Otherwise, there was going to be a crash.
I'm going to say it now. If there's any way to overtake around the outside by throwing it sideways and kicking up a bit of smoke as well, fair play, Edmunson. That was a fair way to do it.
Yeah, it's a good thing that we gave him driver of the day last time out, but I fear that after that save, we'll be thinking about him for this time round as well. We can't possibly give him it 2 times in a row. Up the inside goes Stapleford. This is a fantastic battle. You said last week, Dave, and I remember you saying it vividly, that they couldn't race around Portimao. Well, you're proving you wrong here. Out of the right-hander, down the hill they go, quickly into the left. That's flat in a Formula 1 car. Stapleford at the inside again after holding a huge drift is inviting Luke Weston and Maxi Roerig in on the action as well. This fight for the top 5 is heating up and is going to be a train of cars before you know it, climbing all over the inside curve there is Edmunson. He's not even letting me get a breath because he's just charging at the driver ahead of him.
Yeah, this is a very determined effort, isn't it? I mean, this has cost them quite a lot of time. You can see how Luke Weston and Maxi Roerig have really closed into the back of them. But to be fair, I'm not complaining. This is a great battle between the two cars. Edmunson just doesn't seem like once he gets through, he can hold the hold the place back. He's going to try around the outside of turn 1. No, he's not. He's going to try and tuck in, but that's a collision with Luke Weston. All 3 cars go wide, going towards turn 3, the right-hander up the hill, who's going to have the inside line. Luke Weston showed his nose. I think Luke Weston's going to have the drive up the inside, but Max Edmunson's up the inside of that, and there's a driver trying to go around the outside as well. Edmunson's sideways coming over the crest, and this is just allowing Robbie Stapleford just to start to pull away now. So this is where Edmunson really needs to get his head down, get a few clean laps and try and close that gap back up.
It's no longer a race for the top 5, I would say. It's probably a race for the top 6 as Edmunson's now trying to hold off the likes of Luke Weston and Maxi Roerig. But to be fair, actually, I don't think Stapleford got as good a run as I was suspecting out of that race. And all of a sudden, they've sort of gapped each other just a touch, just enough to basically let us get our breath back, and maybe you guys to have a sip of the cup of tea that you'll probably let go cold, because of the action that you've been watching in front of you for the last 7 minutes has been absolutely sensational. It looks like Weston doesn't quite have the pace on Roerig, which is why they keep swapping between each other. And I tell you what, I think Edmunson is probably praying that Roerig does them a favour, launches one at the inside or two, and so he can just focus on trying to catch Stapleford. We mentioned Stapleford, he's got a 50% reduced ballast on board, which means he went from 14 to 7 kilograms. We thought that was a bit of an odd thing to do, didn't it? Because the way, well, you can explain the way the League of Champions point system works, Dave, but basically you have an allowance. You can buy a little bit more, but you can't buy that much more of points, and that allows you to activate perks throughout the series. For instance, 25% off your ballast is one of the perks, and they decided to do 50% off one of the perks. And if you run out, that's basically it for the entire League of Champions. There is an opportunity to purchase a few more points, but not really a substantial amount. And so he's basically used an awful lot of points when he's currently sat about 4th in the championship. He's not really got hope in winning the championship. Just to lose 7 kilos is a bit of a questionable decision, we thought at the start, but he's really trying to attack and get that 3rd place in the championship, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can put this down to is maybe he felt like he didn't quite have the pace in the car that he needed to sort of keep his championship hopes alive. So maybe he's thought, well, let's take the 50% off. Let's try and make my job a bit easier, really, of shredding the weight and making sure I bring home a good position. And at the moment, to be fair, he's doing a very good job in that, because he's sitting 5th place ahead of Edmunson and Roerig, both drivers he's having to battle with. Jordan Brennan really is the real sticking point. He's gone in, put it on pole, and so far sitting a good, comfortable lead ahead of Ryan Elliot. So it's Jordan Brennan that's going to be the real worry for Robbie. But in the position he's in at the moment, there's not a great deal you can do about it, and this does happen in championships. And it just eats away at you while you're driving, trying to work out the points and calculate who's going to be where. Because remember, Jordan Brennan's 7th in the championship, Robbie Stapleford a few positions above that. Jordan Brennan will be eating into that championship gap quite a lot if he manages to bring home the win here.
Yeah, we can't quite figure it out this quickly on the top of our heads. Obviously, we will get it calculated for you in between race 1 and race number 2. Luckily, our internet sort of system database does that automatically for us, like we mentioned before. But it's worth noting as well, the important things on the circuit right now in terms of the championship. Ryan Elliot is currently in 2nd place. He's ahead of Jack McIntyre. But here comes Maxi Roerig on Luke Weston. They've been battling each other throughout the last, since the start of the race, the last 10 minutes, essentially. They're not done and dusted, are they? And they did get an opportunity to catch up to the 2 drivers ahead, but it looks like Weston's just been, I wouldn't say nudged wide, but he was definitely encouraged wide as he got a little bit loose on the rear end, and this has allowed Dorman to come in as well and put his 2 cents into the mix. Maxi getting through now and putting a little bit of a gap between himself and Weston. Dorman giving him a nudge there, coming off the throttle. If anything, that was helped Luke Weston catch back up to the back of Maxi Roerig. It's not going to happen through the hairpin, but it may happen coming out the hairpin, because he's got a good exit tucked up to the inside as well. Roerig didn't get a good exit at all. He ran too far wide, had to come off the throttle before the back end stepped out. Weston trying to carry the momentum around the outside. Huge carry over the curb there by Roerig, and it's just about got his nose ahead and stopped for the next corner as well. But I think there was contact there. I don't know if there's a little bit of a lag for Luke Weston and Maxi Roerig, but still Roerig ahead. Dorman now gets ahead of Weston because Weston had to come off the throttle. Tell you what, it's no matter where you look here in the League of Champions, no matter who you're looking at, what championship order it is or anything like that, there is action, isn't there?
There is, and you know what? I'm going to put it in the pot now. A name that's impressing me at the moment is Andy Dorman. That's an impressive drive at the moment. Eighth place, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. He's waited for the opportunity to arrive. He let Luke Weston and Maxi have that battle, and he's just pounced on it. And that's exactly what you need to do as a driver. Take advantage of those who are maybe, battling or shouldn't be, and that's exactly what you need to be doing. I also worked out quickly the difference between Jordan Brennan and Robbie Stapleford. So, first Jordan Brennan, Robbie Stapleford sat in 5th place. So, going into this race, we had Jordan Brennan on 62 points, with Robbie Stapleford on 76. Now, if they finish the way they're going to finish, as I say that, look at Andy Dorman on Maxi Roerig. Is this where he's going to back out and tuck in? It is indeed. Can he get now the run and throw a move up the inside? I think that gap's a little bit too big, but that's exactly what I was on about before, Jack. He's calculating them risks. He could have hung it around the outside there, but let's face it, he would have probably ended up with a door and off into the gravel. Instead, he sat back, took his time, and maybe have another battle or another bite at the back of Maxi's car. As I was saying before, we've got Robbie Stapleford on 76 points. The way it's going to stand is Robbie's in a position to score 11 points. Jordan's going to score 20. I believe Jordan's also done fastest lap. So that means actually this race alone, Jordan's going to take 10 points out of Robbie Stapleford's championship position at the moment. Oh, as we see Andy Dorman just going slightly wide there. It's going to allow Luke Weston up the inside, but Andy Dorman will have the run. He's going to hold it around the outside of Luke Weston here, going up the hill into the right-hander. I think this is going to be job done for Andy Dorman, actually. He's going to just break a little bit back on the apex, force Luke Weston to tuck in, and that's exactly what he's done. Great driving yet again there, Jack.
Yeah, he didn't quite get the apex, did he? And a few corners leading up to that, which allowed Weston to come and have a little bit of a nibble back at him. But he did manage to put his car right where he needs to be, and he's still doing that defending from Weston. Maybe doesn't have the pace of Roerig. So you were talking about Edmunson and Jordan Brennan, the gap between them, 10 points to be eaten up. Not entirely sure where that will put Brennan in terms of the rest of the field, because I won't put that on you, Dave. I won't make you calculate all that. But essentially, Brennan will jump, I reckon, to within the top 5. One driver we haven't mentioned that much at all, because he is in absolute no man's land, is Callum Newsham. Callum, I don't believe, is actually I can't quite see the timing tower. He's actually not that far in no man's land, actually. He's caught up to the back of Ryan Elliot. That won't be music to the ears of Elliot, will he, as he hears the Ginetta closing up on him slightly. But these three have been fairly measured throughout the entirety of the race, and what this will do is allow Newsham, and he's outscoring everyone behind him, obviously. That's how racing works and championship works. And so Newsham, we might actually see jump up a little bit as well, and maybe threatening the likes of Edmunson in 6th place, who is currently 3rd in the championship and everything like that. So essentially, it's far too much for us to work out here now in the next 6 minutes. We're going to leave that until after the first race, and we'll give you another update on how on earth the championship is looking. But right now, Elliot is ahead of McIntyre, and that is for the first place in the championship. That is the important stuff right now. There is going to be an extension of that 5-point gap between those two.
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's going to be that extension. If I'm honest, if Callum gets too close to Ryan here, we might see Ryan not put up too much of a fight. He might just go, you know what, Jack's a good distance back. If I let Callum through, he maybe won't necessarily battle that hard and we can crack on. The biggest issue here is Brendan will be looking at the timing sheets, and if anything, Jordan doesn't want Callum to get past Ryan, because then that means he's going to have that lead that he's eaten into the championship points reduced slightly, because Callum will score obviously more points as well. So, Jordan at the moment is sat in the best position he's sat in. He's done fastest lap as well. He's doing the best job he can. Callum Newsham really needs to try and get past Ryan Elliot here to try and extend that gap a little bit to Jordan Brennan in the championship hopes.
Yeah, Callum Newsham's actually 10 points behind, 10 points ahead of Jordan Brennan going into this race. Oh my God, has anybody got a calculator out there? I don't think I can do this quick enough. Essentially, it's getting extremely close, and the fact that nobody's had a bad day, apart from, you could argue maybe Maxi Roerig's not having the day that he was hoping for, which maybe, I wouldn't say has ruled him out for that fight for the top 3, But he's currently in 6th place in the championship. It's not aiding him, as everybody basically is outscoring him at the moment, especially Jordan Brennan, who's just behind him. He's obviously leading the race by quite a long way. And that all that fight basically that he had with Weston especially, and Dorman for maybe a lap or two, has really hindered him. And I tell you what, that's going to hinder Dorman out of that corner, out of the hairpin, isn't it? That's really catching a lot of people out. And here comes Weston up the inside to try and take what he probably feels like is his on pace, but it's not going to help him if he keeps making, keeps sort of not really being as decisive as he should be when Dorman's not exactly keeping it clean out there, not in terms of being aggressive, but just his driving, his back end's coming out quite a lot. He's missing a few apexes, but Weston's just not taking advantage.
Yeah, that, with a massive slide by Dorman. I mean, I tell you what, regarding the driver of the day thing, yes, he's missed a few apexes, but I mean, surely putting a show on for us has to also be in contention with it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. No, this has been fantastic stuff by Dorman. We've been whittling on about championships. He's been doing the visuals, hasn't he? It's been sensational, and he's still going sideways and fighting with Luke Weston from Fast R as well. It's sensational stuff by Dorman. And this is the thing, driver of the day. He's going the right way to earn himself a Power Max Racing balloting kit, isn't he? Because it's not just about points. It's not about being consistent necessarily, although Edmunson won it last time for being consistent. It's about doing exactly what he's done here and putting on a fantastic show against Luke Weston, who's trying to keep it around the inside this time round. I don't think there's much doubt that Weston has the overall pace on Dorman, but Dorman's just not leaving him alone, is he? He's just trying to every single opportunity. He's trying to fly up the inside, make Weston go offline, potentially give him something to think about, fill his mirrors, all those sort of good things that you hear commentators say on every form of racing. But it's absolutely true. That's why everybody always says it. That's exactly what Dorman's doing. He just needs, whenever Weston's made a mistake, he's been there to pounce, basically. He needs to be close enough to pounce, and that's exactly what he's doing. So fantastic drive by Dorman so far. A driver, we didn't really mention anybody outside the top 7 after qualifying, because obviously we had a chat with Jordan Brennan and then we went through the VRRC Academy stuff. But further down the order, you've got some drivers who have sort of taken part and they've improved quite a lot, and Dorman is one of them. Obviously, we've got Carroll Johnson on the screen right now, who's fighting a little bit with Carroll, who is really involved at Imola. We've got Mick Sutton, you pointed out at Imola as well, Dave, and then Laramie and Thorpe as well, and Press, obviously. So a few drivers outside the top 10, outside the championship, that maybe are using this as an opportunity to learn a lot and maybe trying to attack the League of Champions Series 3, or even maybe the GT4 Sprint Cup and the Mini JCW as well. I can't wait to see what they're like in a front-wheel drive car.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's definitely the elements of this car that are very, very difficult to drive. It's surprisingly loose on the back end, as we've seen Dorman show many times around this track at the moment. I would have thought the times for the drivers would be a lot closer in the front-wheel drives. They tend to be a little bit more forgiving to drive. They tend to be, as I said, a lot closer on times. So that's going to be the interesting one for me. Regarding the point scenario, though, I'll go back to it. At the moment, working out, Robbie Stapleford will still have a gap of 5 points to Jordan Brennan if they finish as they are now. So Jordan Brennan's eked into that a little bit, into that gap, but still not enough to actually overtake him. But this is where the big thing about position for the reverse grid and lap times comes in. So if you look at the lap times that's being set at the moment, actually Ryan Elliot has just done the fastest lap of the race, has actually got that point off Jordan Brennan, so that's not going to help Brennan again. But the points difference, the lap time difference, is the fastest lap time Robbie Stapleford set so far is a 150.9 dead. Jordan Brennan's done a 150.3. So there's, a good 6-7 tenths faster than Robbie. So if he can use that pace in the second race and open up the gap, this is where the championship will really come alive going into the second race.
Tell you what, I'm glad you're keeping up with all this, Dave, because I'm finding it very impossible. What I can decipher, though, is the fact that we are on the final lap of the race. Jordan Brennan has completed 10 laps. This is going to be his 11th when he crosses the line, and I tell you what, he's been untouchable. As soon as he got into that first place after qualifying, nothing has touched him. He got a good start, and he's done a brilliant job to try and make up the gap to come across the line to take the first win of the evening here at Portimao in the AOC Gaming League of Champions. He's done a good job. That's all he can do is try and get as many points as possible to move his way up to third. Ryan Elliot has done a good job. All he has to do is outscore Jack McIntyre realistically to extend the championship lead. Callum Newsham has thrown his hat into the mix as well to try and recover some points that maybe he thought he'd lost earlier on in this Ginetta Super Cup series. He comes home in third place on the road as well. Jack McIntyre in fourth. He'll be semi-happy with that, but realistically, it's not as good as he was hoping for. Robbie Stapleford comes home to round out your top 5. To round out your top 10, it's Edmunson, Roerig, Weston, Dorman, who has put a good show on for potential driver of the day early on. Andy Carroll as well. And you can see the rest of them filing through your screen now on the left-hand side. But we've already got drivers in the interview waiting room. So, Dave, why don't you have a chat to our race victor?
Yeah, so we'll go to our race winner and pole sitter, Jordan Brennan, as we see him getting very, very sideways going up the hill. You know, I take it that's exactly how your race wanted to go. You know, you got a good early lead and you managed just to hold that gap all the way to the line. I mean, as far as your championship hopes goes, it's exactly what you need to happen.
Yeah, it was a good race. I was just seeing what the gap was to Ryan throughout the whole race, but about halfway through, I had a big over-rev on the downshift, and there's a lot of black smoke coming out the back of my car. So I don't know if you can see that on stream, but I was a bit worried there.
No, we can't, but luckily it looks like it's reasonably healthy, and you managed to hold the pace. I mean, the big talking point for me with Jack going towards race 2 here is, you know, first, second and third place, all podium finishes, really seem to have quite a good pace differential from the rest of the grid. So I take you're going to think that's a real advantage going into race 2 to help get through the grid and cut through it a bit better.
Hopefully, yeah. But yeah, the reverse grid, you don't know what's going to happen, so we'll see.
Well, we will see indeed. Congratulations on race 1. Good job done. I'll let you focus on race 2.
Yes, thanks.
We've got our P2 finisher, Ryan Elliot. You know, not much danger there for the championship, was it? It was a nice steady start, no risks taken, exactly what you need to do.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, really. I knew that my closest two people, being Jack and Max Edmunson, were behind me. I just had to keep my second, because obviously at this point now I've only lost 2 points to Jordan, or 3 points, sorry, and I've gained 2 on Callum. So really good race. Thought I had the fastest lap, and then Jack Mac pulls out flipping fantastic lap. It would have been enough for even P2 and quali in the race. So really good job by him. But it's just nice to have a clean race. So in this one, I just need to keep my nose clean, go forward, stick onto the back of Jack.
Well, it sounds like you've got it all calculated. Let's hope it all plays out and works out for you in race 2, mate. And I'll let you get your head down and concentrate.
Yeah, thank you.
And on our P3 finisher, Callum, it was a good effort to try and hold on to the front. You're definitely on lap times. I take this is where you might be able to rely on your racecraft to really help you cut through the pack a bit in this race 2 start.
Yeah. Well, race 1 everyone was fairly consistent, so it was really hard to gain in on the guys in front. So we just kind of stayed like 2 seconds gap. But yeah, hopefully I can make my way through the pack here, starting ahead of the Jordan and Ryan. So see what.
I mean, I would tell you the way the championship stands are looking if you want to know them, or if you prefer just to race with a clean head. I won't spoil it for you.
Yeah, no, don't tell me.
Don't spoil. Okay, no worries. I'll always like to give the driver the option, because some drivers don't like it to cloud the head. So good luck into race 2, Callum. It's looking good for the championship, so I'll let you crack on and go forward in that.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
No bother.
And that was Dave Marshall having a chat to our top 3. But what we're going to do is we're going to have a little word from our sponsors, AOC Gaming, and then we'll be right back with more updates on the championship. Hello everybody and welcome back. Now what you see on your screen right now is essentially what we were trying to calculate during that first race. It was you can see why we were struggling because Ryan Elliot, he's extended that points bar to 8 points from 5 to Jack McIntyre, but then just ignore them two for the second because they probably have secured that first and second. Look at third place Max Edmunson on 90 points, then Cassius to 4th and 5th. Callum Newsham, Robbie Stapleford drawing on 87 points. And Jordan Brennan, after that race win, has clawed up to 83 points now. The third down to 6th. Those 4 drivers separated by 7 points of a second. No wonder, Dave, that it was hard to calculate. We really do need to go back to the grid now because we're about to get the lights on the screen. But that's sensational stuff. What we're going to do now is I've given Dave, obviously, the task of trying to calculate all of that while I keep an eye on what's happening on the screen, but it's Andy Carroll who takes pole position thanks to the reverse grid of the top 10. Andy Dorman, potential driver of the day in second place. The lights come on, the revs come out for the final time for the Ginetta Super Cup League of Champions. We are away with a good start by Andy Carroll, a poor start by Dorman, it's safe to say. Luke Weston trying to go around the outside of Dorman, potentially has the move done and dusted. Keep an eye in the background as Weston and Dorman reignite their battle from the first place. Ryan Elliot's up to 8th place already. Dorman's into 2nd. Edmunson up to 4th as well. And they go side by side. There's a huge hit on Dorman thanks to Edmunson, I believe that was, as well as Weston looks to get back up the inside of him. There's more contact in the rear view. Andy Carroll is away, but Weston takes sideways, and I'm not sure who that is. Around the outside, there is Robbie Stapleford has gone into 4th place. Maxi Roerig's in 3rd.
Yeah, that was a mad start. Andy Dorman doing very well to recover that very hard hit. This is Ryan Elliot trying to go around the outside of Max Edmunson. I believe he's done the job. Mick Sutton also at the back there, holding on to a very impressive slide. Ryan Elliot already up into 5th place. More importantly, one of the big championship contenders, Jack McIntyre, down to 11th.
Yeah, Jack McIntyre in 11th, but Callum Newsham in 10th as well. So 2 of the major players in the stories that we've got to tell tonight are well down the order as Ryan Elliot is trying to eye up a move to go 2 into 1, basically take 2 people at 1 point as Stapleford goes through on Maxi Roerig, who potentially doesn't have the pace here tonight. He gets hung out to dry. Oh. This will allow Ryan Elliot to sweep up the inside of both of them if he gets a good run, which he does exactly that, into the left-hander. It's going to be a tight turn in, but I think it's all just about settled each other down. So at the moment it is still Carroll, Dorman, Roerig, Stapleford and Elliot, but it's Stapleford on the inside here. Then Jordan Brennan's the driver behind in the rearview mirrors. Up the inside potentially. Can he get his Ginetta up to the right-hand side now? I'll tell you what, Jordan Brennan's looking there, and I think Elliot has to give him room. Brennan going through. Brennan the race winner. Elliot 2nd place for race number 1. They're touching. They're side by side as they go onto the final corner and out onto the pit lane straight.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great move to show your nose there around that last corner, keeping it committed. It's putting him in a great position for turn 1 here. I'd be very surprised if Ryan tries to hold it around the outside, which he doesn't. He's smart, he brakes, tucks it in, but actually that's left Jordan wide. Ryan Elliott up the inside, but Max Edmunson is already passed, actually, done all of them in the 3rd corner. Robbie Stapleford not quite managing to get past Maxi Roerig, that efficiently. Maxi Roerig, very, very brave to hold it out round the outside and put it up the inside all the way up that hill. That's kept him really in this race. Andy Dorman doing a very impressive drive in 2nd place, but to be fair, not to rule him out, Andy Carroll also doing a very good job leading the pack away.
He has indeed, yeah. McIntyre's up to 9th, Newsham's up to 8th. So actually, Newsham and McIntyre are right in this mix now that you can see. That is Newsham just on the backside, going up the inside, and there's huge contact between Brennan, I believe, and Newsham. Brennan and Newsham both getting away with it slightly, but I'm not sure if there's going to be much damage between the two of them. Keep an eye on their lap times as we go through the rest of this race. But Newsham washing wide then. Maybe there's a split of damage as he tries to struggle to get the car stopped as well. I fear for Callum Newsham here. That is a huge hit that he had on Jordan Brennan, and it looks like McIntyre, who is no slow chicken by any means either, is looking to go up the inside of him into the braking zone, and I think he's going to have that move done. Newsham trying to carry that momentum around the outside, which means he'll have the inside for the next corner. It's not hard to defend through there, but it does still take some trust in the next driver, as we now see Stapleford trying to hunt down Andy Dorman. Maxi Roerig got through on Dorman, and I fear now everybody's calming down just a touch in the championship battle. You might see Carroll and Dorman move slightly backwards, but what we don't know is that any of these battles come a cropper thanks to contact as Roerig looks to defend on Andy Dorman, who's going through on the outside, and there's no stopping him there, isn't he? He's still putting on a show, even though he's in the second race and he's not involved in the championship whatsoever, which is fantastic to see as well. He's not afraid to get his elbows out. Maybe he's making a point that he'll be around there next time out. But that's a huge look at the inside by Stapleford. But look at this. Elliot's going around the outside, and Edmunson with a huge move around the outside. Elliot as well on Stapleford. They're still going wide. Elliot trying to keep that position ahead of Stapleford. I'm not entirely sure what we just saw because there were so many things going on all at once.
I think I'll try and explain it, and I might get told off in the comment section here. I believe Andy Dorman slightly slowed things down. As we see, things are getting very crossed up. I believe that, unfortunately, is Robbie Stapleford going slightly backwards behind Jack McIntyre. I think what we saw there was Andy Dorman slowed it down, was like half deciding whether to try and put up the inside, which then meant Robbie Stapleford was showing his nose but couldn't really get the job done. Max Edmunson read how slow the grid was in front of him and braved to move around the outside with even more speed, by which point Robbie couldn't really defend it, and that's what we saw. Edmunson with a great move around the outside and has now seen him up on the podium spot.
I tell you what we can note as well is obviously McIntyre is having a pretty poor round of it so far. He's in 9th place. Edmunson is the driver who's in 3rd place in the championship at the moment, but Edmunson, which is entirely possible this is, because he's got Roerig and Carroll ahead of him, who he is quicker than on the road. Edmunson will realistically have to win the race and McIntyre to finish in 9th or 10th for there to be a threat. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, for there to be a threat of 2nd place getting overturned to Edmunson, actually, and McIntyre falling back down the order, which is something that we weren't expecting to say at the beginning of this evening. Roerig now looking up the inside. He's trying to claw back the points that maybe he didn't gather in the first race. He's going to have to, the best way of doing that is, if he doesn't have the speed, is to put as many slower cars in between himself and the likes of Edmunson, Jordan, Brennan, Elliot, Newsham, Stapleford and McIntyre as he possibly can, which is exactly what he's done into turn 1. He's overtaken Carroll. That's allowed him to then maybe put a bit of a stopper in the attack that Edmunson was looking. But here goes Carroll. He's just getting hit all over the place. Edmunson and Dorman just bashing all over the car there. I think there may well have been a little bit of damage, but he still has the place. Jordan Brennan's in through to 4th on Dorman. He's looking to go up the inside. Brennan already up to 3rd place. You can see he's got good race pace as well as the qualifying pace.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work out the points there. You threw that a little bit on me as I'm actually watching Andy Dorman and Andy Carroll going very, very well here, side by side, both holding their own here in 4th and 5th place. Ryan Elliot with the early move up the inside of Dorman. Who's that? Is that Robbie Stapleford showing his nose up the inside? But I think Andy Dorman is going to have them both back, is he, going into the left-hander here?
Yes,
he is indeed. He is indeed.
Absolutely sensational stuff. He's just overtaken the champion-elect. Provisionally champion, obviously. I mean, we were noted that by Rich, who runs VRRC. It's the provisional champion we're announcing tonight, because it is down to traditionals, obviously, afterwards. But we're going to still get excited about it. I think that's fair to say. But Ryan Elliot and Dorman, Carroll, right in amongst it. I love the fact that Carroll and Dorman just don't care that there's a championship to be getting on with. They just want to try and do as well in this race as possible. Maybe they're listening to the stream, and Dorman wants that Power Max Racing balloting kit, and who can blame him if a driver of the day? I mean, do let us know in the comments who your driver of the day is as well, and we'll keep that into consideration as Elliot looks up the inside of Carroll, who decides that he wants to go towards the gravel trap, but it comes back on the circuit, luckily safely, and it looks like he's going to be overtaken. Roerig, Edmunson, Brennan, Elliot, Carroll, Dorman, Stapleford, McIntyre, Newsham, Johnson are your top 10 at the moment, but it's just continuously changing for the last 8 minutes here, and we've got 12 minutes to go in this sensational race where we will try and figure out the points as we go. And I tell you what, in about 2 minutes time we'll give you a points update, as long as they don't all change dramatically, which is likely to happen because Newsham has just gone up to 8th place and now has gone down to 9th, with McIntyre going through to 7th. So McIntyre trying to claw back some points to make sure he secures his 2nd place in the championship, but it looks like Brennan is on a bit of a charge as well. This is Carroll, but on the inside of Carroll is Stapleford. No, sorry, around the outside of that was Stapleford, but he didn't manage to get the move done and dusted. Difficult track to overtake here at Portimao, but they are trying everything, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've just worked it out right. I believe if it finishes as is, I believe Max Edmunson has just pipped 2nd place by 1 point. But don't hold me to that. That's working on very, very rough calculations on the whiteboard to the left of me. But I tell you what, the way things are playing out, we've got Andy Carroll mixing up.
Oh.
Oh no! As we just said that, there's Andy Carroll gone off, and that changes everything. So actually, I'm fairly relieved about that. That's my head off the block now, because that's a new point system, and I think that means Jack is currently holding still on to second place. Ryan Elliot with the 4th place is definitely looking favourable for him winning the championship. Maxi Roerig, I don't think we can rule him out, is currently sat in 1st place. I'm trying to work out what all this is doing for the championship, but I tell you what, it's that close, Jack. I can't work it out.
We need a spreadsheet, don't we, I think, going into the touring cars that just updates automatically somehow. Some Excel spreadsheet person needs to just come in and help us with that one, because this is sensational stuff and we don't want to miss anything. I feel sorry for you, Dave, you're having to work it out because you're missing the action out on circuit. As Callum Newsham goes on the inside of Jack McIntyre as well to take that position away. McIntyre comes back on the offensive, trying to get that cutback, which we've seen so many times here at Portimao already. Newsham is just struggling to try and secure the points here. He's going to really find it tricky to try and get anywhere near that 3rd place, because Max Edmunson is well up the road in 2nd place at the moment, probably securing not only 3rd but potentially 2nd in the championship. But McIntyre, Stapleford, I tell you, it's just really very difficult. It's very hot in this office, and I'm getting very lightheaded with all of this action. It is fantastic. I wouldn't have it any other way, though, for the final round. It's not even the penultimate round anymore, because that was last race. The final round of the Ginetta Super Cup Series here at the AOC Gaming League of Champions has been absolutely brilliant. It's a hard car to drive. It's a hard car to drive in real life. It's a really hard car to drive in the sim, let me tell you. And on the Portimao circuit, it's really pushing the driver's limits as Newsham looks up the inside. Now, there's a huge move late on the brakes against McIntyre, and I fear that McIntyre probably saw that one coming. There's no way to get the switch back on him there as Newsham goes through and now potentially looks to attack his Dancho teammate of Robbie Stapleford to try and attack for the top 5.
Tell you what, Jack, that matters. Jack McIntyre back down to 7th place. I think that's just put Edmunson back in front for 1 point. So Callum Newsham overtaking that. I think Max Edmunson's soon going to be Callum Newsham's best friend after this race. Callum is on the move. He's already gained on the back of Robbie Stapleford here. He's really starting to find his feet in this car, which I believe is maybe slightly damaged looking at the front of his car. So yeah, this is really starting to hope. And Andy Dorman is actually starting to fight back at the back of Jack McIntyre.
Oh, go on, Andy Dorman. Yeah, I think Callum Newsham, he had that contact earlier on. I don't know if it was with Brennan or Edmunson. I can't quite remember now, as they were fighting through, and that actually set Newsham back a little bit. But now he's gotten to know the car. Maybe he knows exactly where he's strong and where he's suffering a little bit. He can pick his points a little bit better. But here comes Brennan on Edmunson here. Roerig hasn't got away far enough either, I would argue. For 8 minutes to go, Brennan goes up the inside. He's looking for his 2nd race victory of the evening here at Portimao, and he's going the right way about it as he slots himself past Edmunson and into 2nd place.
He's just making this really difficult for me to work out championship points now, isn't he? Max Edmunson is now down to 3rd, so that's undone everything that I've just said. But I tell you what, the rate that these drivers are closing in Maxi Roerig, if both of them manage to overtake Maxi, then I tell you what, this is all up for grabs. This is going to be a huge mix-up at the table on the very last race of the season. I can't quite believe what I'm seeing here, Jack.
I know, I'm very glad that I'm the lead commentator and I dished out the job of working it out to you, Dave, because I wouldn't have a chance, wouldn't have a hope in hell. But again, you're right, it could mix everything back up in the order if Roerig starts going backwards. But look, Ryan Elliot in 4th place. The important thing for Ryan Elliot right now, because everybody's wondering, we're all talking about 3rd place in the championship, but you know, realistically, we obviously want to have a little bit of a focus on the actual champion, provisional champion, in Ryan Elliot, because right now he's extending his gap to Jack McIntyre. He's doing everything he needs to, basically, because there's a huge point difference. He's got 19 points back to Edmunson going into this race, and that will get eaten up a little bit if he falls back. If he finishes behind Edmunson, obviously, but it's not going to be big enough to overturn. So it looks like Ryan Elliot, touch wood, has got himself a Sim Rig 5 for his efforts this championship. He obviously cut his weight in half to try and secure those points this round, and it's worked a treat for him, especially if he doesn't have the ultimate pace with the ballast on board. He's half the ballast and decided, you know what, I might not be the fastest, I might not get the race wins, but I want the championship, or I want the series champion anyway, to try and take a whole heap of points for the League of Champions going forward. But that's a huge slide by Jordan Brennan as Edmunson looks back up the inside. I tell you what, they're starting. The tyres are coming away from them now. Dave, it's starting to get a little bit feisty on the accelerator pedal as people are starting to sweat and drive in their mirrors.
It is, and I think I must have just saw Callum Newsham and Jack McIntyre swap places about 5 times there in the time you were talking there on the timing sheet. That's a battle that is really heating up there, and I tell you what, I think they're losing time, and Andy Dorman is getting closer and closer still.
Yeah, it's apologies, it's a Sim Race 5, not Sim Rig 5. I made that mistake, but that will be the prize that Ryan Elliot will be enjoying, I'm sure, as long as he keeps it on the black stuff for the moment. It looks like you're right, Dorman is trying to chase down McIntyre. Newsham's just fed him back into that little battle, knowing Dorman is a driver that doesn't mind throwing his nose up the inside if the opportunity presents itself, which has allowed Newsham maybe just to get a little bit of a gap. Maybe a little bit too late to try and catch Stapleford and overtake him and pull away from him, but it means everything's calmed down just a touch. And I tell you what, it's a good recovery drive by Callum Newsham, isn't it? Because he was all the way down in 10th place at the beginning of this race. He's had some damage, he's had some problems here, there, and everywhere, but he's managed to get himself up to 6th. He's got a bit of a gap now as Dorman is getting a good run on McIntyre down the pitch straight. Let's see if he can go into the first corner on the inside. He's already on the inside before we even get to the start finish straight. And I think he's already got his nose ahead and he's going to be able to come back onto the racing line. Doesn't even need to. Oh my days.
Oh my God.
Is McIntyre going? He's checking out and into the tyre wall. No, he's not. He's gotten back on the circuit. I don't know what happened there, Dave. Explain it to me, please.
You know what? I think what we just saw there was some brilliant racecraft. I think Jack knew he missed his braking point a little bit. Andy Dorman had already pulled left in front of him for the braking zone, and I think he purposely steered left onto the runoff to not take Andy Dorman out. So if that is what I think happened there, fantastic driving by Jack and real sportsmanship. So hats off to you. But the big news as well up front is Ryan Elliot has now overtaken Max Edmunson for 3rd place. So this changes the championship even more.
Yeah, good luck getting your calculator back out here, Dave. 4 minutes to go. We will try and keep you up to date as possible, but we will be able to get the final standings, provisionally anyway, as soon as the race pretty much finishes and everybody's crossed the line. So we will have you up to date, and we'll obviously have an interview with our provisional champion and let you know who has come 2nd and 3rd. But right now, Elliot's looking at the inside of Brennan, and actually he's nudged him wide, hasn't he? Elliot has forced Brennan wide a little bit to try and put him off just a touch. Edmunson's dropped back quite a long way, so maybe there was contact as they were sort of progressing through the order. Maxi Roerig has actually made a gap of about 9/10 of a second to Brennan. While these two fight it out, we could actually see Maxi Roerig take a race victory here, even if he hasn't had the ultimate pace. Everybody else is just squabbling over little amounts of points. No one's worrying about the overall race victory because Roerig's not really in a position to attack the rest of them. As Elliot looks to the inside, but it's a defensive move by Brennan. Around the outside, though, goes Elliot. It's not going to happen. They both go wide because they're both carrying far too much speed through. This will allow Edmunson back in, Dave, and that's only the last thing they want.
So Jordan's in a really, really tricky position here because he wants to finish as high up as he can possibly finish. So he wants 2nd place. But having Ryan Elliot between him and Edmunson is only going to help his championship position. So he needs to try and hold Ryan up, but not let him through, but hold him up enough that Edmunson starts to battle with Ryan, but Edmunson not to get past Ryan. So this is, you know, as far as a difficult drive goes, this is a fair one for Jordan, this is, and you can see Maxi Roerig is just pulling away and extending that lead. So I tell you what, I know I'm harping on about this, but this championship position, I cannot wait to see the end position. There's too many people and too many points to try and actively work out who is where. I'm just going to have to wait until the race is finished and then hopefully it pops up on screen.
Yeah, let's do exactly that. But I think with 2 minutes to go with this race, let's just agree probably on our driver of the day, Dave. My money would probably be on Dorman. I think he's provided fantastic action. He's mixed it with the championship lot. He's been brave. He's put on a show, especially for that first race, which without him maybe could have been a little bit more of a procession. And in the second race, he's really fought for his own for the podium. That would be my argument for Andy Dorman, driver of the day. What would be your sort of take?
Yeah, so for me, you know, when you look at where Andy Dorman started in race 2, you know, he got the reverse grid, you know, starting second place, and he really did hold his own. And I admire a driver who, yes, there's a championship there, but he wasn't driving where, you know, he was flashing drivers out the way and doing things like that. He was driving within himself, driving within the championship, but he's going, just because you're championship, guys, doesn't mean I'm not going to give him my all and drive me out. So, fair play, Andy. You can see, we've seen the pace that Jack Max got, and he's still there, even after, you know, 20 minutes of racing. So, top drive by Andy, yeah, and the drift as well, still getting it sideways there on the exit of that corner. It's almost as if he can hear me, you know, he's having fun with it. He's driving it. He's doing a bit of, I don't know whether it's showboating or just the car, you know, stepping out, and he's just going, yeah, I'll put it, keep it sideways. But yeah, for me, Andy Dorman, driver of the day. I think it's done and dusted. I think.
Yeah, well, we have seen a few. I'll tell you what, that was wide by by Brennan, but he actually just was extending the racetrack to try and sweep round to get a better exit. We have seen in the chat as well, you mentioned, people out there mentioned Maxi Roerig and Max Edmunson. Both drivers have done brilliantly well. I don't think Maxi Roerig really had a good enough race one for sort of to guarantee it. And although he has done brilliantly in race two, I just personally, it's not all about the race results sort of thing, and I just think that Andy was sort of put on a show which has been very impressive. Ultimately, I don't think Maxi's really done himself justice here at Portimao. And Max Edmunson, he has been very good, to be fair, but it looks like he's going to win something else potentially, so we're going to probably stick with Andy Dorman for now. But thank you very much for your interest in the chat and your votes as well. But as the white flag has come out, means the checkered flag is going to come out for the final race here at Portimao and the Ginetta Super Cup Series. It is Maxi Roerig who takes it, Jordan Brennan in second place, but our champion-elect, Ryan Elliot, comes across the line in third and takes the championship for the Ginetta Super Cup Series. Brilliant drive by him. Edmunson in fourth, Stapleford in fifth, Callum Newsham came in sixth in the end, McIntyre seventh, Dorman in eighth, Johnson is about to cross the line in ninth place, Mick Sutton in 10th. And the reason I'm reading all of them off is so we have an opportunity to find out the final championship order. We've got a bit of a clue, but we're going to have a look and wait until we get the final results. They're computed through. We have to wait for everyone to finish the race, and then we can give you the official provisional results for the championship. Remember, it's basically any judicials after the race, any complaints or any protests need to be put in process. But for now, we're going to treat this as if this is the final finishing order, obviously. And if you are wondering if any protests will be put out or anything changes over the next coming weeks, then keep an eye on VRRC social media. The winners and all positions will be announced on there in the coming weeks. But wow, what a race, Dave. What a series. It's been absolutely sensational. And it culminated to everything you want as a spectator, as a driver, as a commentator, as a fan of motorsport. That final race was everything.
It really was, you know, what a build-up. You can see Maxi Roerig there getting it a little bit sideways. Yeah, a great build-up there. A little bit of a door bash there by, I believe that might have been Stapleford there, maybe. As I said, you know, last round, I would imagine we're going to see a few protests here. You know, this matters. It was the last race. You know, it was probably one of the most physical races we've seen as of yet. You know, one of the most technical tracks, one of the most difficult. So, you know, we'll wait and see what happens. But fair play to Ryan Elliot. You know, even with protests, you know, I think he's looking as a fair favourite to definitely have taken the championship here today.
Yeah, we just had a few rough calculations in, and essentially I think it looks like Elliott will be taking the championship by about 14 to 15 points, depending on how you know, fastest laps come in and everything like that. Dorman obviously won the won the driver of the round, but before we get into all the championships and everything like that, I reckon we bring in the sort of championship director just before. In fact, no, Dave, actually, we'll leave Rich to the end, because I think it's time that you maybe have a chat. We have a chat to the race winners from that particular one.
Yeah, so if we can go down, is Maxi Roerig there, race 2 winner? Is your mic working there, Maxi? So might be able to catch a quick word with Maxi at the very end. We'll move on to our P2 finisher. It definitely didn't look as easy as the race one there, Jordan, but you just about held off Ryan there to the end.
Yeah, I think I got a bit of damage early on, so I was just really struggling with pace in that one. Yeah, I was struggling when I was behind Max, but then I got past, and then trying to catch Maxi, I just didn't have the pace.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Maxi did seem like he was putting some really good laps in, and looking at it, the pace wasn't quite there from you or Ryan compared to race one. So, yeah, obviously the cars took a little bit of a battering there at the start of the race, and slightly hindered you, but it was still a fantastic effort in race two. And we haven't got confirmation on the championship standards as of yet. Actually, I believe it. They've just come in. So congratulations on finishing 4th place in the championship. Bear in mind, the huge issues you had in round one. So huge congratulations there, John.
Yes, thank you.
We'll move on to our podium finisher, but more importantly, our provisional championship winner with a massive 15-point gap to P2. Ryan Elliot, the gambles paid off, and also using your weight reduction on the last round is definitely proved to be a valuable source. So congratulations on the championship win.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate. Really, obviously over the moon. Means a lot to come into this and feel again. This is for me just proving that my mini E series was just a little one-off. Back-to-back championships now, winning the Civic Cup and the first series of the League of Champions. So over the moon. I can't wait to get my new rig chassis and finally get rid of this. I mean, it's done me well, but GTO Mega rig. It's going to be a complete step up. It'll really help.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a fair upgrade with its with how sturdy they are, and especially the fit and finish of them as well is definitely going to be a fair markup. Yeah, huge congratulations there. It got a little bit, dare I say, tense mid-race. There was definitely opportunities there where I was thinking there's definitely battles here you don't really want to be getting involved in, but you couldn't really go anywhere else.
Yeah, I don't quite understand some people's logic. Sort of when I was going for overtakes, just plain overtakes, people trying to then go up the inside of me, making it 3 wide, and there's just I don't know. But I managed to keep my nose clean. It was other people hitting me, which isn't ideal. I was sort of hoping they might have given me a bit of an easier time since I was in a fight for a championship, but I can't tell anyone to do what they want at the end of the day. But just absolutely over the moon. Like I say, we had fastest lap by just about 6/10 in that one, so pace was really good for me in that one. I really closed on the back of Jordan quick. But just want to say a massive thank you, Mad for Mini Motorsport as always, Mini Specialists based in Leeds, run me in the real life cars as well as in the sim racing side. And then another quick shout out, Mum and Dad, Nana and Granddad, girlfriend Rebecca, and Aiden from work. I know you're all watching. I hope it made it entertaining for you.
Well, it was definitely entertaining to watch, Ryan, and I don't think me and Jack really got a chance to have a proper breath there or even a drink there in the second race. So congratulations again, and we'll let you go and celebrate. Unfortunately, no champagne, but I'm sure you can find something in the fridge.
Oh aye, it'll be Grey Goose vodka for me. Right, cheers lads.
Oh, championship winner there, celebrating like a true champion with the Grey Goose. Yeah, congratulations to Ryan Elliot. Dave, it was a fantastic series all in all. But you can see now on your screens the final standings. We spent so long trying to figure them out all the way through the race, but here they are as they stand at the moment, obviously pending any kind of complaints or anything like that. Ryan Elliot taking the race, taking the championship with 125 points. Jack McIntyre in second with 110, so he didn't lose that second place, but it is Max Edmunson who took that third place in the end. That sort of such closely fought third place with 103, just 3 points ahead of Jordan Brennan, who we just had a chat with earlier on. He ended up in fourth, but a staggering recovery considering he started this evening in seventh place. Robbie Stapleford finished in 5th. He was 2 points behind Jordan Brennan. Callum Newsham slipped down to 6th, and probably a series he'd like to forget, considering his unlucky streaks that he's had throughout the last 4 weeks. But he'll be back stronger than ever, I'm sure. Maxi Roerig actually was on joint 6th place with Callum Newsham in the end after that race to victory. And then obviously the rest of the field, you're looking at Luke Weston. He's in 8th with 50 points. Andy Dorman, our driver of the day, who unfortunately we didn't get to have a chance to chat to, he was in 9th. Then Alex Toft-Jones, who didn't turn up tonight, in 10th place. Martin Johnson, 11th. Andy Carroll in 12th. Dan Zelos, 13th. Mick Sutton, 14th. Kenny Press, 15th. Scott Bugner, 16th. Paul Laramie in 17th. Robin Walters, 18th. Simon Thorpe, 19th. Akil in 20th, and Kate Impey 21st. Ed Akers unfortunately couldn't make any of the rounds. I think I saw him once. He was in 22nd place. Well, Dave, I think it's about that time that we do introduce our race director and the head of VRRC, Rich Hayden. And Rich, I know you've been watching that. You've obviously been keeping an eye on track limits and everything else for this evening, but I bet it was pretty hard to concentrate with the action that you saw tonight.
Yeah, no, you didn't want to attempt Akil's surname then, Jack, no?
No, I feel like, rather than butchering a name, I'd feel like to go for the easier one.
Brilliant, yeah. Thanks very much. Yeah, that was exciting. From what I was watching, I think there might be some protests coming through, you know.
I would like to call it as a commentator, but Dave mentioned it a little bit before.
You've got to be controversial.
There's definitely some moves there that if I was the receiving driver, I would be looking at a replay to see if I was going to be putting in a protest. Probably 2 or 3. So let's see what comes through. I think there was some overly robust moves there on some overtakes, and for sure Andy Carroll was taken out of the picture in race 2 when he was performing really well. So let's see what comes through. But that was pretty exciting. I really enjoyed that.
Well, if we take the controversial, or potentially not very controversial, let's say fairly obvious physical aspect aside, the racing was sensational, wasn't it? I mean, it's everything that the League of Champions has designed and set up to bring us. It's a short series, each series over to only 4 weeks, and that's designed to keep the championship points nice and close and give everybody a chance basically going into the final round, which, I mean, we were talking about 7 people or potentially getting at least 3rd place, and that's just unheard of in most championships.
Yeah, we like to run the points and the championship, so it keeps it exciting all the way through. I think the touring car championship that we ran 2 or 3 months ago now, I think Dave, you'll be able to remind me on this, but I think going into the last round of the touring car, I think there was 8 drivers that could have won the championship. So
I think I went in the last round in 8th place and won the championship, I think. So yeah, it was very, very close.
Yeah, we like to keep everybody on the seats, but you know, we're giving good prizes away here, right? So it's got to be difficult, and people have to earn those prizes. You know, it's not a giveaway. So you've got to earn them by being talented and using your head and getting the strategy right and putting in the hours on practice. And if you do that, you know, I know Ryan puts in a huge amount. I know Jordan puts in a huge amount of practice. Jack Mac as well. He's in so many different series. He's putting in a lot of practice. Max Edmunson as well does a huge amount of practice. So really pleased with how that's gone. Can't wait for 2 weeks time to get the touring cars out, eh?
Yeah, indeed. But between now and then, actually, there's the academy to kick off for VRRC indeed. As well. Quite an easy little segue into a bit of a plug here. Rich, go ahead.
So yeah, I think Dave sort of like talked about it a little bit early on. One thing that was becoming apparent when we were talking to people about whether they were going to join our races, our championships, there was a section of people that were going, we'd love to, but we just don't think we're fast enough. So what we wanted to do was kind of create something where it would be a championship. There are prizes, but those prizes are aimed towards making the drivers better. So throughout the championships, and I think we've picked 4 great cars, 6 circuits that stay the same all the way through all 4 championships. So you get taught and coached and mentored on how to drive these very different cars on 6 of the UK's best circuits. And not only do you get the chance to win prizes at the end of the championship for one-to-one driver coaching, coaching on how to set up the cars in Assetto Corsa as well, but also there's a weekly Q&A in Discord with some of our pro drivers as well. If you've got any questions, there's a dedicated slot there for you to be able to ask questions on Discord to those. And then also once a month we do an online coaching session for every driver that's in academy. So throughout the championships we're coaching you, so it's fun, you're racing, it's against people of a similar level to you, and you're also getting better at racing in a sim.
Screams. I mean, if anybody's out there is wondering if there's anything like real life, it sounds a lot like the GRDC that Ginetta have put on. The only reason why I bring it up is obviously because we've just been driving the Ginetta, but it's a very similar sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Max Coates is another driver that drives with us and one of our pro coaches as well. He's very active in the GRDC, as you know. And he does a lot of coaching on track with the people there, but also does coaching in the sims online. We can either do it in person at VRRC in our pro sims, or we can do it online. So you sit in your sim and we join you on the track from one of our pro sims and give you an online coaching session. And obviously Dave, your co-com, is one of our online coaches as well. He's not too shabby in a sim, and he's not too shabby in a real car either.
No, exactly not. And well, before we round out this stream, Rich, I suppose this is your opportunity now to give it a quick shout out to whoever you might like, whether it's the drivers, the sponsors, just whoever. A big thank you to anybody who you like, really. Just sort of filling this so you can probably think of some names in your head. But if there is anybody you'd like to give a shout out, go ahead.
So I guess the first thing is that I want to thank you guys and Tom as well, who's been doing our broadcasts. You've made it really exciting for us guys, so thank you very much for your commentary, and well done, Tom. You brought in last minute, and you've come up trumps with this. You're improving every single time, so well done, mate. And then obviously I want to thank all the drivers for entering. There's been some really good competition. And then very much not lastly, but they are mentioned last, is AOC Gaming, who are series sponsors. We've got a close relationship with those guys, love their product, love what they do, and it really ties in nicely with their values and our values, so really pleased to have them on board. And of course Power Max Racing as well. They're another partner of ours. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff with them at touring car rounds this year with our sim truck there, with our 2 Pro Motion sims in. So Power Max have kindly donated some of the Drive of the Round prizes. So thanks very much to those guys, OBP Motorsport and Alpha Sync Gaming PCs as well.
Brilliant stuff. I'll be there to go and tap you on the shoulder and give me a free go on your sims there on the touring car weekends, Rich. Don't you worry about that.
I'll look forward to it, mate.
Good stuff. Well, I'd like to probably give one last opportunity, Dave, to hear some final sentiments on the Ginetta series as a whole, and look forward to the touring cars before we sign off for the evening.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the championship provided exactly what we wanted it to provide. It literally came. Ryan, managed to pull away enough at the early stages of the championship, hence why it wasn't quite as close for first place as it was the rest of the grid. But regarding the rest of the grid, you saw how close it came down to. I think the weight was about right. I think the championship points were about right. Really, a championship that proved to be very close in all. So, if that's anything to go by, touring cars are slightly easier car to drive, more competitive. More drivers, I reckon, that'll get up to speed of them a little bit quicker. Maybe not as many rounds to get on the pace. I think the touring car is going to be an even bigger battle than that, I think.
Well, if it is, I'm going to have a supply of drinks and t-shirts, because I am sweating. This is soaking wet right now. So after that round, brilliant. Thank you very much for you guys jumping on with me. Rich as well, obviously organising. Tom with the cameras, and Dave, my good old co-commentator, with me as well. My name's been Jack Oliphant. Thank you very much for watching the AOC Gaming League of Champions Ginetta Super Cup Series. Hopefully he'll be back joining us, not next week, but the week after, for the touring cars kicking off at Brands Hatch. Good luck at, I think it's Brands Hatch, Rich, is it? Is that the Academy? I was just well that wrong, I think.
Academy is Brands Hatch.
Yeah, Academy is Brands Hatch, yeah. But we'll be back in 2 weeks for the League of Champions. Thank you very much for watching. Keep it pinned to VRRC to see the provisional champions and the confirmed champions as well. See you later. Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Barker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.